I want to talk about 3 different ways that you can manually expose for flash photography. One of the things you'll need is a lens with either feet or meter markings, so you have a rough idea of how far away your subject is. Second thing you'll need is a flash, of course. So the way that I do this is I'll set the focus on my lens, say it's 3 feet away. On this flash, there's actually a dial that lets you pick your settings. So I'm shooting completely manually, and what I'll do is I'll set my focus. I choose my ISO speed on the flash. Let's say I'm shooting at 400 ISO. If I'm shooting at 400 ISO at 3 feet, it wants me to shoot f32, give or take. Try that, see how it comes out. If you're shooting anything with film, it's necessary to get it right the first time. Even though film can't handle a couple of stops of highlights, you still want to get it pretty darn close so it's not too overexposed. But I'll do that. And if I'm not happy with the settings, I'll see if I can lower my ISO if I'm shooting digital, or pick a different film stock if I can. And if I'm shooting at 100 ISO at 3 feet, it wants me to shoot at f22. Second way to do it is with a flash meter. Now this is pretty nifty. So you'll basically do the same thing. I'm going to pick my ISO speed. Let's say I'm shooting at 400. I'll give this to my subject, have them hold it, and I'll do a test flash, which usually there's a button on the back where you can press it and it'll fire a flash without taking an exposure. And then my flash meter will give me a number 1 through 9 or over, and then I'll set the dial to, let's say it's 6. I set it to 6. I'm at 400 ISO and I want to shoot at f16. So I do that and it gives me a proper exposure. Now this also has an option to do bounce flash, which is very nice. Third way, if you're really in a pickle and you're just shooting digital, is just to take some test shots and see how it turns out. It's not the best way to do it, but at least you can get a rough idea. Take a photo, say, ooh, that's way too dark. Let me, bump up the flash, or let me get a little bit closer. Let me open up the lens a little bit more. Let me bump up my ISO. Whatever you have to do to get your exposure correct. It's 3 different ways to manually expose to your flash. Just doing one with the flash and knowing the distance, and you can guess the distance as well. I have to do that a lot, where I look at my subject and I'm like, they're probably about 10 feet away, and so then I adjust my settings for that, where I'll look at the flash and it says for 10 feet I'll be shooting at f8. I'm like, alright, cool. Take my exposure, look at it, and it turns out good. Flash meter is nice to have just in case you aren't very good at guessing distance, and you can have your subject hold the flash meter. If you don't have a way to hold it, that makes it a little bit trickier. So then you might have to guess the distance and do it like that. But just 3 different ways to try it out. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments below.